What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name is Kyle. In this video, it's July 6th. Hope you guys had a great 4th of July week. We are going to be looking at running back data from 2022, specifically the running back targets. I did post this link on the fantasyfellowship.com. You guys can go and check it out. I did post it in the link in the description as well. Essentially, I found some interesting data. What we're going to do is we're going to go over the article and I'll kind of share you guys with some of the nuggets that I found. One of the things at the top of the article, it's a chart from Scott Barrett. He is the creator of fantasypoints.com. You guys can click on his article and read that there. But in the study, we find that PPR points, half PPR points in standard, we figure out how many fantasy points per target. And in this case, for PPR leagues, which is the one that I play the most in, it's 1.57 fantasy points per target. Compare that to carries, it's only 0.62. So we're talking almost 2.5 times the fantasy points per target compared to carries. So that, in a PPR league, it's very crucial to get those passing down backs. Guys like Austin Eckler. I got Antonio Gibson, Joe Mixon up here. These guys all catch a lot of passes. Christian McCaffrey, that's what makes these guys so valuable in fantasy football. In half-point PPR, it's about 1.18 fantasy points per target. Again, 0.62 for the carry. That's almost double. So in half PPR, it's still almost double for a catch or for a target. And in full PPR, it's almost 2.5 times. So very interesting data here. And then what I did, we'll look at some of the target data from last year, but then I took these inputs here and I put them into my projections. And then I filtered it and I figured out, essentially PPR touch points, basically giving it, with the targets, I gave them 1.57 points per target and I gave them 0.62 fantasy points per carry. And I came out with some interesting rankings here. We'll look at that towards the end of the video. But let's just kind of start to recap what happened last year in terms of running back targets. The team that threw the ball the most to the running backs was the LA Chargers. They threw it almost 10.5 times per game. Their running back percentage was pretty high at 25%. And they also threw the ball a ton. They had 41.82 targets per game. That was second in the league to Tampa Bay. Now, Tampa Bay comes in at number 2 with 147 running back targets, but we don't know if Tom Brady's going to be targeted, or with Tom Brady not being there, we do not know if Baker Mayfield's going to be targeting these guys as much as Brady did. So that's fair, but I would still bet that they're probably a top 10 team in terms of running back targets. The Bengals here coming in at number 3. Now, what's interesting about that is Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine split time. We'll look at that later. But again, these are just the teams that target the running backs the most. So I'm going to go over them. Chargers, Austin Eckler. Tampa Bay was Fournette and Rachaad White. Cincinnati was Perine and Mixon. The Jets last year, they used a lot of running backs. Breece Hall, Michael Carter, Zonovan Knight, even James Robinson got some targets. So the Jets, interesting team, especially with Aaron Rodgers there. We'll see if they continue that. The Houston Texans threw the ball to Rex Burkhead and Dameon Pierce a ton. The Colts dumped it off to Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss. Naheem Hines was utilized in that role as well. The Patriots, of course, dumped it off to Ramondre Stevenson a ton. This year, there's rumors that he might get his workloads, cut back just a little bit. So we might see Pierre Strong, the second-year player, get a little bit more work, as well as Ty Montgomery. The Broncos dumped it off a lot. That's this year's Samaje Perine, but last year it was Javonte Williams and Latavius Murray, Melvin Gordon. Here's your Washington Commanders. About 7 targets per game to the running back. That's Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissic, but J.D. McKissic's gone now, so there's a huge role for Antonio Gibson to maybe take over a good chunk of that. And again, that's all these teams here in the top 10 threw it over 20% to the running backs, which is pretty impressive. So there's Green Bay, there's the Lions, the Dolphins, the Cardinals. I thought the Chiefs would have been higher, but they're not. They're at about 17% of their passing attempts, though, which is fair. And J.D. McKissic's the guy that we want to target. Let's look at the bottom of this list. Towards the bottom, the Eagles, down here at 61 pass attempts to the running back on the season. That's about 3.5 per game. That's no bueno. That's why I'm not really into DeAndre Swift right now. Chicago Bears down here at 62, Ravens at 63, the Rams at 63, the Falcons at 66. That surprised me because we used to like Cordero Patterson in that passing down role. And the Jags were surprisingly low as well. So these are teams that we have to monitor their running back target situations. Now let's keep it moving here. I did write up a little bit of things here, and I expressed, again, Austin Eckler is the guy for this data study. Rachaad White, though, I'll show you. Rachaad White, if he assumes pretty much all of the passing down work in Tampa Bay, he's going to be in for a sneaky PPR season. When I filtered the data here, he came in as my RB10 in with these. Again, I entered those inputs for PPR touches and carries, and Rachaad White came into maybe a top 10 finish here. Talked about Samaje Perine being gone. I'm not sure who the Bengals running back 2 is going to be. I think it's going to be Travion Williams, but Chase Brown's going to make a run for it this July. And the Jets, basically, they had Mike White checking it down a lot. The team that I wanted to note here was the Texans. We'll look at that a little bit later. Let's actually just kind of continue here. Now, I took the same chart from above and filtered it by running back percentages. Not really anything changed here, but a few things stuck out. The Chargers, number 1. The Patriots, number 2. That's where the Commanders come in. They were number 3. Bengals, 49ers at number 5. Interesting. The Texans, again, peaking up here. Broncos, Giants, Saints, and Packers. We had 12 teams throw it over 20% to the running back. So these running back situations are ones we want to identify and maybe, put on our fantasy teams for 2023. Now, at the bottom of the list, again, similar culprits from before. The Eagles, the Rams, the Ravens, the Vikings were surprisingly low, and so were the Jags. So these teams all, I'm a little bit nervous about their running back targets. Although with the Ravens, they hired Todd Monken, who in his 4 seasons as an NFL coordinator, offensive coordinator for the Buccaneers and one for the Browns, he throws the running back about 95 targets per year, which would put them, more towards the middle of the road. So I'm open to the Ravens moving up and getting J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards and Justice Hill more involved as a receiving weapon. Again, I'm nervous about I'm nervous about DeAndre Swift and the Eagles running backs. Cam Akers, probably not the best receiver upside right now. And then the Vikings are weird. I thought Alexander Mattison and the Vikings and Dalvin Cook would have been higher, but we'll kind of pump the brakes there. Let's see. And then this is the chart that I thought was interesting. This chart shows each team's leading running back in targets. So there's Austin Eckler, Ramondre Stevenson, Leonard Fournette. Again, I think most of that role is going to go to Rachaad White. Maybe it's not a top 5 role, but it could be top 10. Alvin Kamara, we know he's going to be missing games. That's going to open things up for Jamal Williams and probably the rookie Kendre Miller. Saquon Barkley's going to flirt with top 10, top 5 targets. Joe Mixon, as long as he's still on the team. Again, the heavy rumor right now is that they're asking Mixon to take a pay cut to stay with the team. If he doesn't, they could just release him and free up some cap space and go sign someone like Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt, things like that. So we'll watch for the Bengals situation. They do throw the ball a lot to the running back. Aaron Jones, there's Jerick McKinnon. DeAndre Swift was pretty high in the Lions, so we can input Jahmyr Gibbs into this, and I might even say Gibbs is probably going to be a top 5 target man in running back targets in 2023. There's McCaffrey just with the 49ers, his numbers there. Jacobs, and then here's the interesting one. Gibson down here at 58 targets. What I do want to call up to attention is last year, I looked at the number 2 running back on each team, and J.D. McKissic was up here with 40 targets. So we're talking about 40 J.D. McKissic targets, 58 Antonio Gibson targets. McKissic's not there anymore. That's potentially 100 targets to the running back 1 receiving back on the Commanders. So it could be a really nice PPR season for Gibson. We might see him crash the top 5 in running back targets. So I have been aggressive on him. Teams at the bottom here, again, these are teams that just don't throw the ball to the running back very much. The Rams, they had Darrell Henderson as their leading target man. The Ravens threw it the most to Kenyon Drake. There's Kenneth Gainwell, Cordero Patterson. The Broncos had Latavius Murray up here, but I think that would have changed if Javonte was in the game. Kenneth Walker, I think we're probably going to see Zach Charbonnet lead the Seattle Seahawks in receiving targets. Montgomery's low. That might be a Rashawn Johnson spot here. JT, Henry. Again, these guys, even though they're big-time running backs, it's still nice to see them hit about 40 targets, so I'm fine with that there. But let's keep it moving. What else do I have down here? These are the team's second leading running backs, so guys like Rachaad White, Samaje Perine, A.J. Dillon, McKissic. Here's Dameon Pierce. I mentioned Rex Burkhead being high up there on the Texans list. They threw 51 times to Rex Burkhead last year, but they also threw 39 times to Dameon Pierce. That's almost 90 targets to the running back there. If Pierce can, force a 50-50 split with Singletary or even beat Singletary, I think Dameon Pierce has some sneaky PPR upside. And then same thing with Nick Chubb, because the Browns, they don't have Kareem Hunt on the team. They have an unproven second-year back, Jerome Ford. Kareem Hunt led the Browns last year with 44 targets. This year, no Kareem Hunt. You take those 44 targets, Chubb's probably going to be the leading receiving target back for the Browns. So we might see him graduate up to the list next year. And a couple other things stuck out. I like Jaylen Warren on this list. I think he's going to move up. James Cook's the real interesting one, though. Buffalo, he ranks 11th in RB2 targets with 32. But last year, the Bills threw 52 targets to Devin Singletary. So this year, Singletary's in Houston. You have James Cook, who's probably going to be the lead back there. I think he's going to lead the team in carries, and I know he's going to lead the team in receiving targets. He's going to have to hold off Nyheim Hines, which I think he can do, but you have 52 Singletary targets last year, and you have 32 James Cook targets. That's what, almost 85 targets between the two. Maybe Cook ends up getting 60, 70 targets. We shall see. But just some takeaways here for you guys. And again, you guys can click the link in the description or go to thefantasyfellowship.com and check some of this out. I did put the whole chart up on display here too. I think this is a really cool one. You can just right click and open it up in a different window, but I have it filtered by targets here. You can kind of see what's going on. The other thing that stuck out to me, I made these green, which was the leading target guys in terms of target percentage to the second running back. And then over here on the far right, you can see running back target percentages. So you want to target green situations, teams that throw the ball to the running back. Again, the Texans stuck out, the Jets stuck out, the Commanders stuck out. The 49ers are going to, target CMC a ton. But then down here, you have the Colts, who threw a high percentage of their passes to the running back. I know it's a different regime this year, but we'll see. And then the Broncos threw a high percentage there. They just had, too many backs to really pop. So Javonte and Pirine this year really stick out. But that's all I wanted to share with you guys today. Go check out the article on thefantasyfellowship.com. A lot of data here for you guys to digest. But hey, thank you guys for your time. Thanks for hanging out with me. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening. We'll see you in a future video. Peace.